meeting will also be recorded, so the slides you can see afterwards and will be put online. The slides will also be on the website of NWO KIC, so you can also look at the slides in a later moment. For the presentation, we have this program. First, I will address more a brief introduction of the Knowledge Innovation Conference. Then we discuss the mission-driven program, which will be done by Maarten de Swart. At the end, there will be room for some discussion and questions. The second part will be an interdisciplinary collaboration. It's one of the main goals in the Knowledge Innovation Conference by Marcel Hoek. And knowledge utilization will also be addressed by Roald van der Poel. That's the plenary session, and then about 10 minutes for 3, we'll have the roundup of this first part, and then second part, it's possible to have in subrooms more in detail questionnaires and interaction with the call themselves. Looking at the program of this day in relation to other activities we have in the Knowledge Innovation Conference, there are also matchmaking sessions, which the main goal are to meet with other researchers, but also meet with industry about the topics addressed in the Knowledge Innovation agendas. And in this slide you see the dates about when each matchmaking session will be held. But before we start with the more detailed information, I want to address that the Knowledge Innovation Conference is signed last year in November 2019 by government, public and private parties. You here see a photo of this meeting, and it's an activity which is to be done to match mission-driven innovation to a program structure also done by NWO to achieve those goals, which are social challenges and knowledge and innovation topics addressed by the KIA's, we call it, the kennis innovatie agendas by the top sectors in the Netherlands. Those agendas are mainly social themes agendas like energy and transition and sustainability, healthcare, agriculture and water, food, security, but also key enabling technology and public earning capacity. So about those 6 themes, we built a program structure with NWO to stimulate researchers from knowledge institutes to work together with researchers of industry. And our goal is to stimulate scientific but also practice-oriented research that makes the difference in achieving the goals of those missions and the KIAs. Those KIAs are for us a leitmotif agenda setting for developing our programs. The aim of the Knowledge Innovation Contract is to contribute to the social and economical impact, foster economic opportunities, and resolving societal challenges. And it's difficult how to do it, so it has to be combined in a cooperation with public and private parties, but also in a focused agenda. How we do it, what is the NWO contribution? We want groundbreaking scientific research with social and economical impact. We'll address that later in one of the speeches, for instance, by Maarten and Marcel. We also want a strong commitment by private partners and cooperation in the knowledge chain. How we do it by PPS construction, public-private cooperation construction, and it's co-funding from industry in the research programs. And we also want to facilitate focus and mass to choose robust thematic topics and a large volume of funding to acquire those activities that are needed to solve those societal challenges. And it's different from the earlier innovation contracts. For instance, we did a shift from top sector agendas to mission agendas. You can read more about it on our website. Also, the contract period has changed from 2 years to 4 years, so we've got a longer time of conducting our research. It's from a contract divided to evolve to a covenant, more an agreement. And we did it and shuffle in many different programs to 4 NWO main funding lines. And those lines you see here there are 4 funding lines. We have a mission line, we have a demand line, a strategy line, and a practice line. And today we are discussing the mission line. It's the activity in the left upper corner at your slide. So Maarten will guide you through the mission calls and the outlines and the conditions how to deliver a good proposal with us. In the upcoming week, we are also publishing new KIC calls for the line demands and also long-term programs strategy. So we'll keep in contact with our website, nwo.nl/KIC, for more details, for more programs on the Knowledge and Innovation contract. So now it's time to go in depth. And Maarten, please step forward and lead us through the process, how to work together to conduct a nice mission proposal for our funding lines.
Okay, thank you all.
Okay.
So, good afternoon. My name is Maarten Stark. I'm coordinator of the mission line within the KIC. And in the next step, general aspects of mission calls. So for the mission calls, for the mission programs, several calls will be organized. Important features of these calls, and Rolf already mentioned this, are focus and mass. Let's first focus on focus. The themes of the mission calls are derived from the Knowledge and Innovation agendas, the KIAs, within the Knowledge and Innovation Covenant. From these agendas, sharp thematic choices are made, which means that not all topics in the Knowledge and Innovation agendas are open for funding at the same time. The topics vary each year. This can mean that your research at the moment does not fit within one of the call topics, but next year we'll have other topics, and maybe you can come back then, and there are chances that your research will then fit better. If you want to have a look, and Rolf already mentioned it, on the topics of the Knowledge and Innovation agendas, please visit our websites. How are these topics selected? So the KIAs, the KIA teams are asked annually by NWO to come up with their thematic priorities, and then NWO selects from these priorities the topics for the calls. And in this way, we will be able to organize for the next years 1 or 2 calls per agenda each year, resulting in 6 to 12 calls each year. So once these topics are selected, NWO develops them into calls and executes them. And we aim to have a uniformity along all mission calls. An important feature of, well, an important goal of the KIC is reaching impact. Rolf already mentioned it. Impact on society. The KIC and the mission calls have to come up with solutions for societal challenges. This means that also your project should be aimed at impact. There should be a clear problem, and that's the first thing you have to think of when you are considering submitting a research proposal. That's on which problem you want to go to work and which societal challenge and corresponding with the topic of the call you are going to solve. And from there on, you should bring together your consortium and write a research proposal. You will hear more about this in one of the two next upcoming contributions. The KIC is aimed also at economical opportunities for the societal challenges, and hence the private partners should always be part of the research proposal. So you work in public-private cooperations. On top of that, there should be a interdisciplinary cooperation. This is new compared to former KICs and the programs therein. And interdisciplinary means that scientists and technical scientists should work together with psychologists, anthropologists, lawyers, and vice versa, of course, and so on. And NWO is convinced that working in such interdisciplinary setting maximizes the chances on impact on society. In the calls, also your attention is asked for human capital, more specific on learning communities, and those are cooperations between education organizations, research institutes, companies, societal organizations that bring together learning, working, and innovating. And you can read more about this in the calls and on our website. As said, we aim for uniformity, so the calls are look like each other, which is then reflected in the requirements for the calls. And now we go to the mass part. Already mentioned public-private consortia. So the calls are aimed at larger consortia consisting of researchers from universities, from knowledge institutes, from universities of applied sciences, and they act as the applicants. They apply for the funding, and they should bring then 2 or more public or private, in any case private partners as co-funders. And on top of that, also other collaboration partners can be involved in various roles. We aim at large calls, considerably large calls, at least 5 million euros, so that we can fund within each calls a considerable amount of larger projects. And in this way, we are convinced to make a real difference. Project size is a minimum of 750 kilo euro and can go up to several millions depending on the call. So please also look at the requirements of the calls. And the funding is for maximally 6 years in the calls. Co-funding is required at the project level, so the applicants should bring co-funders with them in their proposal. And there are 2 variants within the mission line. So there's the knowledge variant and the innovation variant, the knowledge with 10% co-funding, and the innovation variant with 30% co-funding. Minimally, half of it should be in cash, which means that the other half may be in kind, and 50% of the contribution should be of private origin. Throughout the open calls, we have now 1 knowledge variant and 6 innovation variants. Due to the COVID-19, NWO has decided that it is possible that calls have less stringent co-funding requirements, and for the knowledge that, well, in any case that will be that the cash obligation is not there anymore, so 100% of the co-funding can then be in kind. Another decision was to have a lower co-funding percentage of 30%, of 15%, excuse me, instead of 30% in the innovation line. So up to now, 6 of these calls have decided to take over these less stringent requirements, and there's 1 call, the key technologies calls, that still has the standard requirements. Now, looking at the total budget of the KIC and of the mission line. So the mission line has approximately the half of the total annual budget, 55 million each year. And you can see that for the mission line, there's a division over the knowledge and innovation agendas. And for the other instruments, the demand, strategy, and practice, there's no upfront division of budget for the KIAs. Something about the procedure, 2-step procedure in each call, so consisting of a pre-proposal phase and a full proposal phase. Deadline of the pre-proposals is 6 months from the opening. And then the selection committee provides a non-binding advice on your pre-proposal. Then the deadline of the full proposals is 4 to 5 months after the deadline of the pre-proposals. There will be, as usual, I would say, at the NWO a peer review process. The applicants are in the position to write a rebuttal on the peer review, and then invited projects will be heard by a selection committee for an interview. And then in the end, the NWO executive board decides on the funding, and then we are already 1 year from now, after the summer 2021. Here an overview of the calls in 2020. 7 are already open, and a few upcoming calls, 12 in total. And here also the deadlines for the pre-proposal phase. Please mention, and if you go to the key technologies breakout session, you will hear that as well, but there's a deadline for a appropriateness statement by the KIA that should already be submitted the 10th of November. So bear that in mind. So this brings me to the end of my presentation. Here you can see more information where you can get this on our website. So if you have questions afterwards, please know where to find us. And I'll give now the mic back to Rolf. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maarten. I understand it's a complex call with several achievements to be made. Topics like how do you be compliant to an innovation agenda topic. How is it tested by us? How does the initiative are combined with the agenda topics?
Yeah, well, so like I mentioned, NWO selects the topics. There's a special committee, the KIC program committee, installed at NWO, and they look at the topics that are provided by the KIA teams, and they also look, and that's of course very important for science, that the scientific content of the calls will be appropriate and considerable, because we want, and that's what we fund at NWO, good science, excellent science that can have a contribution for solving the societal challenges.
Okay. And can you address the next question which come up in my mind is how does a good researcher find for his topic a company who's interesting to work together?
Yeah, that's a good thing. It was already mentioned that we are going to organize matchmakings. For each call, a matchmaking will be organized, so you will be there in a position to meet other applicants, co-applicants possibly, but also companies and other possible cooperation partners that can be part of your project proposal. Yeah.
Okay. Can you say something more about a point of contacts within the calls? How can we find more detailed information? Is this necessary?
Yeah, more detailed information can be found on our website. If you click on from the KIC mission page to the several calls, there are contact persons, and in fact, these contact persons are also your hosts in the breakout sessions after this main session. So you can ask them their questions, all the questions you have, and also later on, of course, we are available.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Maarten, for your introduction. And I will invite Marcel on the floor to guide us through the topic of interdisciplinary research. Marcel, afterwards, after your presentation, we will have a chat about the questions which occur. So please feel free to hold your presentation. And to the participants, I'll address to you, put on your questions by the chat, please.
Okay, thank you, Rolf. So yeah, I was already introduced. I'm Marcel Hoek. And I will give you a bit more detail about this interdisciplinary collaboration that was mentioned. That's now an integral part of the mission-driven calls. I myself am within the NWO organization coordinator for the theme Energy Transition and Sustainability. I'm here replacing my colleague Marlies van der Meent, who is the coordinator for this subject. And her contact details are at the end of my presentation. So if you have any questions remaining after today's session regarding interdisciplinary collaboration, you can, of course, address them to her as well. So first of all, Rolf mentioned it already, why we focus on this interdisciplinary collaboration, but I'll stress it again. The new mission-driven top sector and innovation policy is really focusing on societal challenges. And societal challenges, it's in the name, they require an explicit attention to the societal context of the innovations that you study. So therefore, we are encouraging interdisciplinary collaboration because we believe that when technological and social innovation go hand in hand, you really improve the chance of these innovations being successful and actually being adapted. So what does this mean in practice? What do we mean by interdisciplinary collaboration? Well, that means a collaboration between researchers from the humanities, the natural sciences, and the social sciences. And in the calls, you'll see that it is at least 2 of these 3 domains that should be present in a consortium. And always including the natural sciences. And when I say natural sciences, it's actually a very broad term. It's the engineering sciences, it's the physical and natural sciences, it's the medical and health sciences as well. This gives you a nice overview, this diagram of the different research areas of the different disciplines. And you can find this one on the website as well. And we've also defined 3 basic principles for what we mean by interdisciplinary collaboration. And these principles should be integrated, should be innovative, and it should be from the outset. So what do we mean by that? Well, it should be, from the outset, it should be interdisciplinary from the start. Not the start of the project, but the start of the collaboration. So you really start all the way at the beginning when you form your consortium in an interdisciplinary setting. The next step is to form with your consortium interdisciplinary research questions. These research questions can then lead to disciplinary research lines, but they always have to be combined back to provide conclusions and answers to these interdisciplinary research questions. All in all, that gives you an integration of the different research domains in the different consortia, where this collaboration has an added value for all of the researchers involved. So the researchers bring their own disciplinary expertise to the consortium. And this point, and I think this is the most important point of the interdisciplinary collaboration, the research done by the individual partners in the consortium has to be relevant and innovative for their discipline, so their own discipline. So they shouldn't be tacked on at the end to do an ethical evaluation or some sort of brief technical study. No, it has to be relevant for their own discipline. And another important point to stress is research in any discipline can initiate the collaboration. It's not set who starts. Anybody can start, and also it's not set how this collaboration should take place. There's a lot of different approaches available. You have the key enabling methodologies. We have as NWO a lot of experience with responsible research and innovation. So there's many methods available, and it's really the research question that determines and the consortium that determines how you are going to approach this interdisciplinary collaboration. All that said, what do we do in the end in practice to promote this collaboration? Well, the first thing, maybe again the most important thing, is that the scopes of the calls that we are launching now are inviting for interdisciplinary research. So they will have research questions that are relevant for a broad set of disciplines that work together to tackle the interdisciplinary challenge that the calls are posing. The next step is that we provide information and inspiration on our website. So there's a frequently asked questions that would really advise you to take a look at. There's definitions, there's examples. You can see here an animation of how you can get to the different cases we have on the website. The next step was also touched on already. We organize matchmaking meetings. Well, for most of our calls, we organize matchmaking meetings, but in this case, in these matchmaking meetings, we will also really focus on bringing people from different disciplines together. So we invite people from a broad set of disciplines to come to these matchmakings, and together with external partners, we've developed a set of tools to really work in these matchmakings to learn to speak each other's language. So to really know what is driving researchers in other disciplines and how you can combine the different research questions that you would then address in these different disciplines. Well, finally, of course, you will also find that the assessment criteria, so your proposals is also assessed on the interdisciplinary nature of the consortium and the research plan. And to tie into that, of course, there will be specific instructions for referees and the selection committees, following the points that I outlined on the previous slides, to properly assess the interdisciplinarity of the proposals and of the consortia. Well, once again, here are the matchmaking sessions. In the next part of the session, you will have brief information sessions, but in these matchmaking sessions, you can really go in depth into the topics and meet new partners and learn what their take on the call topic is and how you can work together and form consortia. And then finally, once again, I would like to point you to our website. And actually today we've added a new bit of information in relation to interdisciplinary research, because we find that we get a lot of questions about what kind of research do the researchers in the domain of the humanities and the social sciences do in relation to innovation. So we've created a nice booklet with inspiration questions. So to give you a flavor of the type of research questions that the researchers in the humanities and the social sciences tackle. It's now only available in Dutch, since it was only published today and only finished yesterday, I think. But it will be available in English very soon. So please use that and the frequently asked questions to draw inspiration and to form new and exciting consortia to tackle this, the interdisciplinary challenges that we've posed in our mission calls. And if you have any further questions, you can of course leave them in the chat today. If we get to them, we'll answer them today, and otherwise we will answer them online, and you can email, as I said at the beginning, Marlies van der Meent, the coordinator for interdisciplinary collaboration within the KIC, and you see her contact details here on the slide.
Well, thank you very much, Marcel, for this brief introduction about interdisciplinarity in the calls and in the research. I'm interested in your personal view. How is a science and beta scientist working together with a social scientist solving a mission call? How do they do it? How do we work together? When do they come together, and how do we conduct a proposal?
Do you mean how do they meet each other?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Well, there's a lot of different ways they can meet each other. Of course, they can go to the matchmaking, but most universities are universities that have a lot of different departments. So these days it's a bit more difficult to go to another corridor and meet different researchers there, but I would really advise them to talk to your colleagues, go to your colleagues in different areas. For example, in my subject, energy transition and sustainability, there's a lot of people working on it in all of the sciences. So it's not hard to find them, but just go talk to them, and also use the networks of the top sectors that we have and other platforms that we have in the Netherlands. I know, for example, at the Universities of Applied Sciences, there are several platforms where all the different disciplines that are at the University of Applied Sciences meet each other and talk regularly. So that's what I would advise.
Okay, thank you. Another question what occurs in my mind is you addressed it also in your presentation briefly, but the essence in the social science is also to have more in-depth knowledge of developing in a proposal more knowledge about new business models. So it's also generating more knowledge for the sector itself.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I stress. The key is it shouldn't be we add an economist to our proposal to develop a business model at the end. Mm-hmm. No, it has to be relevant research for the field of economics in the proposal, and that can involve studying business models, but it has to be something that also adds new knowledge to the field of economics, and also from the start. So don't tack them on at the end, but start talking with them, and you never know. You might find completely new avenues, or they say, well, this is not something you should look at. You should look at this because this is what the market finds a lot more important. And that's something that, for example, a physicist or a mathematician or a chemist may not always know.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Marcel, for your elaboration. I will announce now Roald van der Poel for the topic knowledge utilization. Roald will address this topic by how we do it in the KIC. Thank you for being here, and afterwards I'll have a look at the chat function with the questions, and I'll ask some questions about your topic here on the podium.
Okay, great, Rolf. Thanks for being here, and thank you much for inviting me to elaborate a little bit on the effects and the results of what we've been working on for the last 2 years regarding our new policy on knowledge utilization. I've taken out my jacket because this is the part where it comes to how you're going to work with that. I've made some slides. I hope my voice is sounding clear enough. Last time I understood that my mic was a little bit out of reach, and then you can't hear me anymore. Okay, so let me go a little bit further into what Martin, Marcel and Rolf already mentioned a couple of times this afternoon regarding societal impact. the new policy on knowledge utilization is focusing on having societal impact or impact in society. And here you see some spheres. And I'd like to explain to you that we do not expect any one of you to reach impact by itself. You know, we aim for impact. We as NWO, we'd like to help anyone who is setting up a research proposal and is executing it. We'd like to help to make the chance of reaching impact as high as possible. So we aim for the impact, but we like to introduce this year some things like getting there by reaching out through output and outcomes from any project. So it starts always with the scientific impact. That is very, very important to get real insights in there. But reaching for societal impact means that there are some stages along the line, and you're not doing it all by yourself. All these little dots in this scheme, they do execute some kind of a role. They do have a role in reaching the impact. So what we'd like you to do is for this year to get acquainted with all these schemes and the ideas behind it. How do we reach, or how do we increase the chance of getting any impact in society by solving or for solving any societal issue? How can we achieve that? And that's what I'd like to show you, because we've taken the opportunity to introduce some sort of underlying theories and schemes. So how do we get you to think about societal impact? And it's very important for us that you understand that you not reach it yourself, but we'd like you to think about the steps that you should take, or that the results and the insights out of your research, how do they get into society? What kind of a logic is there between all these insights, these outputs, and the outcomes? Because before you can reach any impact in society, you have to be sure that others can take on the insights out of the research project. And what makes this special or new in this call, in this mission call for the whole KIC program, in that we'd like you to think upfront on how you could reach these results. So we introduced the theory of change and the impact pathway in a very easy and simple way. We'll help you with that. And these are two underlying theories that are meant to make it easier and to make it more easy for you to work together with, as Marcel mentioned, the other disciplines. And as Martin already told, how can we reach the possible societal impact? So here's what we introduce as a possible setup for the theory of change research. We'd like you to think upfront with your consortium partners on what are the issues that we try to solve, what are the ideas behind any solving societal issue, and what's the change that you aim at. But besides that, by thinking about it and by doing it together with your consortium partners, you'll be having some, or you'll reach insights in what should we do in the project. How can it be translated into output? Who should use the insights out of the project to make it an outcome? And what is needed for others to reach it and to take it along and to change the issue in society? It's a very long way, and we do not expect you to make it happen during or along the project duration, but we'd like you to think up front by setting up the research on how could you reach the societal impact by thinking of the logic between output, outcome, and impact. And by doing so, and by thinking about it, it also explicits the assumptions that you have. So there are a lot of researchers, they might work on the same societal issue, but they all have different ideas on how to solve the issue. Or they might have different ideas on how or what assumption of the cause of the problem is and how to solve it. And that's what we would like you to think about. and make it explicit, because when you do, you also have a better idea on what you should do during the project and what you should be looking at and how you should set up the research project. And again, by thinking of what Marcel just told you about the interdisciplinary cooperation, with whom might you be working together to solve this? Who do you need? So make it a logical setup for your research. And as last, do co-create it together with your consortium and your team, because as Rolf and Martin also explained, we do have several demands regarding cooperation with others. So in this way, you can make it very explicit and you make it very, well, workable or no, executable to work together with all the other consortium partners to set up your research proposal. So make sure who's doing what. And we introduce productive interactions. Who is going to need what kind of insight to make a change along the line? And this last thing along the line is another issue that we introduce. It's called, oh, I don't know what happens. No, there's another slide which is not on this PowerPoint. I'll explain it to you. It's regarding the impact pathway. So think about, when you set up the research proposal, who is going to do what? 2 times, click 2 times. I don't know. Yeah, there it is. So something got in between. This is the slide I wanted to show you. So it's the impact pathway, the expected route to reach impact. Again, we do not expect you to reach impact yourself or your consortium. What we do expect you to think about the route to get there. And it means that we'd like you to think about what kind of insights does the research need to come up with. We call it outputs. And again, who is going to take these insights along? What kind of partners, what kind of organizations, what kind of anyone who takes these insights along and takes it along the route towards impact. And it also explicits the things or the interactions that you need along the way to make it happen, to make the opportunity for others to take along the results and the insights of the project as high as possible. And by doing so, you also need, and you can explicit within the consortium, with all your consortium partners, who's going to do what. Not only inside the project, but also in the borders of the project. So by doing so, we hope we can help you by setting up and by thinking out loud, co-create and co-design your research proposal together with your consortium partners. As stated by Rolf and Martin, we do ask you to work together to cooperate with others. And as Marcel already mentioned, we do not only ask you to cooperate with others outside science, but also inside science with other disciplines. And we think by introducing theory of change and impact pathway, by thinking upfront, by co-designing the research proposal upfront, we think that it is easier for you to execute what we ask you in the pre-proposals to write down. And we've helped you also by by explicating in the research proposals and the formats that you need to fill in. These questions we do want you to elaborate on, and it has everything to do with what I explain here. Further along the line, there are matchmaking sessions, and we will also address this issue regarding knowledge utilization and how to work together and how to set up the theory of change and impact pathway. And even further on, we will have other instruments or tools to help you execute these. And let me finish up by saying that, again, we do not ask you to reach impact in society yourself. We do ask you to set up and think about it together with your consortium partners. What is the societal issue we'd like to solve? What do we address? And what is a route to reach that result? And that's what we'd like you to elaborate on. Okay, thanks very much. Rolf.
Thank you, Roald, for this introduction. I wondered, Roald, you're working with this topic with a team.
Yes.
And how are your, you've done this presentation before, and what kind of questions you get from the field about it?
Okay, well, I think the main questions do relate to the fact that anyone is anxious to know what does it mean for setting up my proposal. And that's what I try to explain. It's not as much that we ask you to fulfill the whole route to impact. It's not as much that we ask you to execute it. What we do want you to do is to think of it up front, to co-design a possible route to impact, and then make sure what kind of contribution you, with your consortium and your partnerships within your project, do have on executing or enlarging the possibility for solving the issue. That's what we ask you to do. And there are some, reluctance, no, not reluctance, but people are anxious to know to what extent do I have to describe it. There's not a good or wrong. You know, it is your thought, it's your consortium's idea. So explain it, write it down, make it logical, and that's okay. That's what we ask you to do.
Right, right. Well, looking at this topic, I think it's rather complicated for a researcher too, to make a vision about how the more fundamental research will roll out to an industrial application or a product or a service in the market. What kind of service support facilitating role can MBO deliver in this?
Yeah, well, I do not agree with you that's a difficult a difficult path, because I don't think that's a difficult path. I go back one slide because I think we help you by providing you with these kind of designs. We help you by, if necessary, with a training or whatever, to make sure that you do understand that together with your consortium partner, you can think of a way what is needed to solve the issue. And of course, we do understand that for solely the science, it's important to know, what do I have to solve? What kind of hypothesis do we need to solve? Or do we know, do we need the understandings of? But please do it together with your consortium partners. Think about it. What do they need to take the insights out of the project and to make it, or to change it, to develop it into any project or service or product or whatever. So we not ask you to do it yourself. We ask you to do it in co-design and co-creation with your partners, to think of a possible route to market or to solve the issue. And as we stated on this slide also, it is about the assumptions that you have. So elaborate then on what kind of scientific, fundamental scientific questions you do need to answer in order to make it possible.
Okay, and more on a practical point of view, applicants or researchers can make contact with the project leaders in the call.
For sure.
To have more in detail their questions, and can.
Yeah, if there are any questions, we are more than happy to help anyone. If you have questions, please regarding the KIC and the project leaders of the specific calls, contact them, state your questions, and we'll help. We have a whole team, so I think there's no question that we cannot help you with.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
very much. Right. So we are now at the end of the first part of this session. We'll have break-up meetings now after the break. There is a PowerPoint, I think, with the overall lineup of all those sessions. Just looking. No. You will be rerouted to special Zoom chambers where your interest is in. And here we are. Thank you very much, technicians in the parallels. And we have 7, and they are organized within the KIA structure. You will automatically be rerouted. For those who are not will be done rerouted, we do it manual, but in some minutes later. This session will be till I think 3 o'clock, and then we will come back to to 3:30, and then 5 minutes for 4. The last session will close. There are 2 sessions, and then we will come together again in this overall session. So, technician, reroute everyone to their separate rooms, and I wish you a good elaboration in each session. Thank you.